Post-apocalyptic America is unforgiving. It's a grim world filled with nothing but misery. However, it's also home to those who can look beyond the hopelessness and forge their own paths. These people, through their words and actions, shape the wasteland, sometimes for the better, other times for the worse. These are the legends of the wastes. Conrad Kellogg was born and raised in a settlement along the West Coast. As a child, Kellogg was a part of a turbulent family. His father was an alcoholic and was abusive to him and his mom. This childhood trauma would unknowingly teach Kellogg to rely on only himself to survive. His mother would hand him a pistol, telling the boy it was now his job to protect the family, as his father was useless at it. But maybe Kellogg wasn't so useful either. In time, Kellogg would run away from home. He told himself that he did it to escape the rules of the NCR, but Kellogg would eventually realize that he was really running away from the guilt of not protecting his mother. Kellogg would never end up finding out what happened to his mom after he left home. Growing up, Kellogg would work as a hired gun, picking up any odd job he could manage. Unsurprisingly, his all-for-me attitude made him damn good at it. He would eventually gain a reputation as the guy who shot a man named Valdez. It would be in the hub that he would meet his future wife, Sarah. Although Sarah did show hesitancy regarding Kellogg's line of work, the pair would fall in love and get married, with Sarah giving birth to their daughter Mary sometime later. Sarah and Mary would be the best things to happen to Kellogg. Kellogg would be the worst thing to happen to Sarah and Mary. Work, or lack thereof, forced the small family to move to San Francisco. With the move came a fresh start for Kellogg and his girls. Known as the hot young gunslinger from the hub, the world was his irradiated oyster. Thanks to his esteemed reputation, he would manage to land a security job with the She, the most technologically advanced post-war faction. With the experience gained from this position, it wouldn't be long before he would be able to manage his own crew and rake in the big bucks. Things were looking great, but only for a little while. Being a hired gun obviously comes with some amount of risk, and not just from the job itself, but from the connections you make and the people you piss off. It would seem that Kellogg angered the wrong set of folks. Sarah and Mary would be killed. This would mark the last time that Kellogg would care for another human being. Once he got his revenge, Kellogg would leave San Francisco, continuously moving east. Kellogg would, once again, run from his past. The man continued doing what he did best, acting as a gun for hire and hitman everywhere he went. The years following the death of his family would begin to blend together for the hardened soldier. The only thing he seemingly remembered was frequently turning to the drink, always finding himself at the local bar in towns he went to. At the time, while this life suited him, he was deeply troubled from his past. Leaving his mother with his abusive dad, the loss of his family, and violent lifestyle took a toll on the man. He would take on increasingly riskier and brutal jobs, anything to distract him from his past. Through his journey east, he eventually came upon the Commonwealth. There, he would move into a home in Diamond City and, once again, begin contract work. Many of these jobs directly interfered with the region's notorious boogeyman, the Institute. For these synth-creating mad scientists, this wouldn't do. An Institute agent and a few synths would host a meeting with Kellogg in the hopes of eliminating the man. This would not go to plan. When confronted, Kellogg would manage to take down the synths himself and strong-arm his way into becoming the Institute's primary surface operative. Unsurprisingly, his years of being a cold-hearted killer made him exactly what the Institute needed. Someone with wasteland experience, yet with no ties to the people living in it. One notable operation that Kellogg fronted involved the acquisition of vital reactor research across the Commonwealth. After receiving a tip from an Institute informant, Kellogg was sent to what was once a major trading outpost at University Point. While on a scavenging run, a young resident came upon a pre-war hard drive. When she found out that the drive had information on reactor efficiency, she planned to sell it for caps. The Institute needed that hard drive, and so Kellogg came to the settlement and threatened them with violence if they did not turn it over. The settlers had 2 days before Kellogg would return, bringing an army of synths with him. While some residents believed the threats were merely a bluff, it wouldn't be long before the Institute wiped out the settlement. The success of the University Point operation set him up to take on the biggest project the Institute had undergone yet, asset retrieval from Vault 111. This leads us into the start of Fallout 4. In order to perfect their new Generation 3 synths, the Institute needed DNA from a pre-war host, clean from any sort of nuclear radiation. Institute scouts determined that Vault 111 carried a pre-war infant, a perfect candidate. And so Kellogg led a team of scientists to the vault. There they managed to locate and retrieve the child, though not before Kellogg murdered one of the lad's parents. The rest of the residents, minus the sole surviving parent, would have their life support systems deactivated. The job was done. Following the success of the Vault 111 raid, Kellogg volunteered for several cybernetic enhancements. This included a limb actuator, allowing enhanced dexterity, a pain inhibitor, making him more physically resistant to combat encounters, and a brain augmenter, improving hippocampus function. All in all, these enhancements made Kellogg harder, better, faster, and stronger, and it also prolonged his life. Kellogg, if he wasn't already, was now the baddest man in the Commonwealth. Despite his accolades, his exposure to the wasteland and less than tasteful methods still made him an outsider in the eyes of many Institute members. 60 years after his kidnapping from Vault 111, Sean, now the director of the Institute, would send Kellogg, along with a Gen 3 synth child, to Diamond City. He was unaware at the time, but this move would be part of an elaborate bait. Kellogg, to his surprise, enjoyed spending time with the child synth. After all this time, it reminded him of simpler days, like those back in San Francisco, those with Sarah and Mary. Like before, however, these days wouldn't last. It wouldn't be long before an Institute courser came to collect the kid, and Kellogg would be dispatched on another mission. An Institute scientist, Dr. Brian Virgil, had gone rogue. Fleeing the organization and facility, Kellogg would be tasked with locating and eliminating Virgil. Before the scientists left, they infected themselves with the forced evolutionary virus, turning themselves into a super mutant. This would allow Virgil to hide in the treacherous locale known as the Glowing Sea. However, on his way to the last known location of the scientist, Kellogg would be significantly injured, forcing him to seek shelter in the nearby Fort Hagen. Kellogg and his synths would use the former army facility as a base of operations. It would be around this time that the sole survivor, desperate to find their son, would follow the nose of dog meat, leading to a confrontation with Kellogg. The past had finally caught up with the notorious gunman. In awe of the partner's determination, Kellogg would order his synths to stand down, offering the chance to have a conversation. While Kellogg is hardly helpful when it comes to providing credible and straightforward information regarding the Institute and Sean, he does offer some respect to the sole survivor, and maybe for the first time, acknowledges his own mortality. After a brief conversation, Kellogg and his synths engage the sole survivor in combat. What was thought to be the most resilient man in the Commonwealth is no more. The Institute, Sean, would get what they wanted. A loose end, Kellogg, dealt with, and the sole survivor one step closer to finding the Institute. And that is the tale of Kellogg. The story of a damaged man trying their best to escape not only their past, but also the feelings of guilt that came with it. Despite being a cold-hearted killer, Kellogg still showed compassion for those he loved. It would be his inability to protect his mother, wife, and daughter that would lead him down his path in life, forever moving away from the memories of his past. Kellogg could have saved his mother. He could have saved his wife. He could have saved his daughter. He could have saved himself even, but he didn't. The mercenary who went east had finally ran out of road. Thanks for listening. If you liked the video, be sure to share and subscribe. Have a good rest of your day. Cheers.
I finally ended up in the Commonwealth. I kinda ran out of road. Plus, I'd come to terms with life. I wasn't gonna be stupid enough to get mixed up with caring about other people again. It was just me against the world, and the world had it coming.